Time now for Eye on Africa. I'm Tom Burgess-Watson. These are the top stories we're following for you. Suspending operations. The killing of a baby at a Medecins Sans Frontieres hospital in the Central African Republic prompts the medical charity to pull out of the town of Zemio. Fueled by drugs and black magic, we examine the phenomenon of Badu murders in Nigeria, which are becoming increasingly frequent and increasingly gruesome. And demanding freedom, hundreds of black South Africans imprisoned during the Apartheid-era asked to be pardoned for their crimes and released from jail. We're going to begin in the Central African Republic, where the medical charity Medecins Sans Frontieres has suspended operations in the town of Zemio in the southeast of the country. That's after militants entered a hospital there, shooting and killing a baby. The facility had been treating thousands of people displaced by the violence which erupted 2 weeks ago between armed herders and militia fighters, resulting in numerous casualties. Earlier on, I spoke to MSF's head of mission, Mia Hegenberg, who told us more.
At the moment, we just got our team back yesterday, so at the moment we are debriefing the team members to try to get a full 360 view of exactly what happened. We have a lot of people depending on us in Zemio, so our goal is and will be to return as quickly as possible. Exactly how that will be done remains to be seen. At the moment, we are trying to find out exactly how the situation has been in the past couple of weeks and looking into the possibilities of a return as soon as possible.
And that was Medecins Sans Frontieres' head of mission in the region speaking to us. She went on to explain what some of the causes of the outbreak of violence in the area have been.
It's a difficult situation to describe because it's not something that is isolated to Zemio town itself. It's a trend that we have been seeing mostly in the east and southeast of the country for the past few months. An escalation in violence, both in urban and rural areas, and an increasing targeting of civilian population. It's hard to say exactly what dynamics lie behind the incidents. What we see as medical humanitarian actors on the ground are the big consequences, not just in Zemio, but also in towns like Bria, Bangassou, Alindao, where you have thousands and thousands of displaced people that live under very dire conditions. They don't have access to food. They don't have access to water. We're seeing families trying to huddle up in a 1 square meter space in a hospital room because they have lost their house. The house was burnt down in the fighting. They've lost family members, and that is what we're seeing on the ground. And we're trying to do our best to assist. The causes behind it is it's a bit more complicated.
And that was the head of mission for Medecins Sans Frontieres in the southeast of the Central African Republic. At least 15 people are reported to have been killed. A further 42 have been injured in the far north of Cameroon. That's following on from twin suicide bombings in the town of Waza, which were carried out by female attackers. It's the latest in what's been a series of attacks in the region where Boko Haram extremists can easily cross the border from Nigeria. Well, increasingly, the militants are using young women who are drugged and forced to carry out suicide missions. Gang violence, often fueled by drugs, is nothing new in Nigeria, but so-called Badu murders, which are associated with black magic, are making the headlines, not just because of their increasing frequency, but also because of their gruesome rituals. France 24's Laurent Bechtecker has this report.
Death still hangs in the air at the Crystal Church of God just outside Lagos. On the ground, bloody clothes and sheets tell a harrowing story. 2 women and 2 children, one of them just 9 months old, had their heads smashed in with stones as they were praying. For residents here, there is no doubt the killings were committed by a local gang known as the Badu that always uses the same method.
After they are attacking somebody with a stone, they are using a white handkerchief to mud the blood and go away. That is what we know. That is a symbol that people have always known.
The gang, which is thought to have killed 30 people in the past year, is rumored to use black magic to appear and disappear at will. Belief in such ritual practices, locally known as juju, remains widespread in Nigeria. 131 suspected Badu members were arrested on Wednesday in a massive raid in Lagos's Ikorodu area. Yet residents say they're getting frustrated by the lack of progress and have begun taking matters into their own hands.
Each time we arrest a suspected Badu member, we hand them over to the police. Then they release them, and they come back and commit more attacks. People are now starting to make their own justice. If they catch them, they kill them immediately.
At least 10 people were killed in such lynchings in the past month. Authorities recently warned they would prosecute any traditional rulers who allowed vigilante justice to take place within their community.
Now, hundreds of black South Africans who were imprisoned during the Apartheid era are demanding pardons. They say their offences were committed as part of their fight against right rule, and to date, only a handful have been released.
After 27 years behind bars, Kenny Motsame is free, except for a tag monitoring his movements. He was jailed for life for killing a white police officer in 1989, a crime he says was political.
I didn't feel remorse of killing that man. You see, there is no a white man that ever came to the government or to televisions and tell the people that, hi, people, this is a democracy. We are enjoying it, all of us. We were wrong to oppress you.
Kenny is fighting for the freedom of his struggle-era comrades while running his business. During apartheid's tumultuous end, the Pan-African Congress's armed wing opposed Nelson Mandela's pacifist policies. More than 20 years after that troubled era, hundreds of people, including PAC members, are still in jail.
It's an injustice for the legal system not to look at those cases afresh and anew and look at them as prisoners of conscience, because their activities were based on a belief that they were changing society.
Tato grew up visiting her father, Percy Chipapi, in prison. An apartheid-era fighter, he was arrested in 1997 for violent robbery. She's baffled that Eugene de Kock, who was given 2 life sentences for involvement in an apartheid death squad, was pardoned in 2015. Tato fears that her father fought in vain.
I feel like they sacrificed for nothing, or maybe the time is still coming, I don't know, but at the way the situation is right now, it was really, really not worth it.
Despite a government programme to pardon offenders convicted of political crimes, out of over 2,000 applicants, only 39 have been released.
Now, Everton football players, amongst them the former England captain Wayne Rooney, have been learning all about East African culture. They've been meeting with the Maasai warriors in Tanzania. Well, this as they take part in a pre-season regional tour, during which they're playing a friendly against Gor Mahia FC. But some media coverage of the tour is raising a few eyebrows. The online edition of the Daily Mail referred to the Tanzanian capital, Dar es Salaam, as, and I quote, a fishing village. Well, some took to social media slamming the British tabloid, calling it gaffe. Yet more evidence of Western ignorance of the African continent. To a very disturbing story now from Botswana, where a Chinese national has been arrested in connection with the illegal donkey skin trade. This after he was found with 500 of the animals being kept in dire conditions. Last month, Botswana announced it's cracking down on the booming trade in donkey skins, making it the 6th African nation to do so. This amidst growing demand from China. But we're going to end on a brighter note. Namibia has a new ambassador to Mexico. Well, I'm not actually talking about an actual diplomat, but an African elephant who was born at a safari park in Puebla. His parents were rescued in Namibia 5 years ago and brought to Mexico. The calf is reported to be growing fast. He already weighs more than 100 kilos. Well, across Africa, the elephant population is currently at its lowest level in 25 years, down 90% since the start of the last century. And that brings us up to date with everything on the continent. Do stay tuned to France 24. More news coming up very shortly.